Let's just remember Baba for 2 minutes and then we'll start. Om Shanti. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. It is so lovely to be here with all of you. And if I'm talking too fast, please feel free to come on and let me know that I'm talking too fast. And so our topic for today is how to take our relationship with Baba to the next level. Is Greece here too? Is the country Greece here too? Yes? Okay. One of my favorite quotes in you could say Gyani quotes was on the Temple of Delphi. I don't know if I'm saying it right, the Temple of Delphi. And the quote is know thyself. Know thyself. But I feel that's very important. Knowing thyself is very important. Soul consciousness, absolutely important. And we will get to that. But even before knowing thyself, I feel very important for our Brahman life is know thy enemy. Who is your enemy? I feel we don't spend enough time in a day recognizing our enemy. And because that is one of the steps in which we can actually deepen our relationship with Baba, because at the confluence age, and especially at the end of the Iron Age, what I've noticed is in my own life that I'm either having a relationship with Baba or I'm having a relationship with Ravan. There is no neutral. There is no relationship going on. Either I am deepening my relationship with Baba or unconsciously I'm in a relationship with Ravan. And because I'm unconsciously in a relationship with Ravan, what happens is then I forget to my relationship with Baba. So it's either or. You know, Brahma Baba used to have this little doll that it was a very little doll. And I remember one time Lakshudadi showing us, and there was a little exhibit in Shantivan where it was Sita, and this side was Ravan, and this side was Rama. And the Sita was either looking at Ravan or looking at Rama. So there is no other direction really. You're either looking at Ravan or you're looking at Rama. And so when we say know thy enemy, we have to understand Ravan. And in the Ramayana, right, Ravan is a very interesting figure. He was a king, and the kingdom in Lanka, the kingdom was actually quite fancy, right? It had the latest technology and it was very fancy. And I don't want you to think that people in Ravan's kingdom were unhappy. They weren't. They were very happy with their king, right? They were very happy with their king, and they were very content with and it was very fancy, right? Like, it had the latest technology, it had everything, right? Like, so the Ravan's kingdom was very fancy. And that is one thing you have to remember about Ravan's kingdom, is it's very fancy. Another thing about Ravan's kingdom is when Ravan comes to abduct Sita, the disguise is as a beggar. The disguise is, give me something, right? In Sanskrit, the words he keeps using is biksham dehi, means give me something, give me something. And so when Lakshman, Rama's brother, he draws a line and says, don't step out of the line. So Sita comes out, right? So how does Sita get duped is Sita comes out and she gets duped because she is, what would you call, she wants to help. She really wants to help. And then he keeps pushing her to come closer and to step over the line and all of that. And so she does step over the line and she gives it, right? And so this thing of why did Sita get duped to begin with is because she felt she was doing service. And she felt like, this whole thing of let me help, that thing, right? At the expense of her own safety. And so what happens is, so now she's abducted. She's abducted and she is taken to Lanka. And when she's taken to Lanka, she is put in the cottage of sorrow. And so when she is put in the cottage of sorrow, what happens to the soul? So now let's talk about us, right? When we say, know thy enemy Ravan, is so let's say I, the soul, have been abducted by Ravan, by the five vices, and I've been put in the cottage of sorrow. Do all of you know what Stockholm Syndrome is? No? Stockholm Syndrome, yes? Okay. Is there anyone here who doesn't know what Stockholm Syndrome is? Okay, you don't know, no, okay, don't know what Stockholm Syndrome is. So Stockholm Syndrome is when a person is abducted, like kidnapped, right? Someone is kidnapped. And the person who's kidnapped falls in love with the kidnapper. And after a while, right, they start supporting the kidnapper. They are so much in love with the kidnapper, but they support the kidnapper over even their own parents. So there was a very famous case in the US. It was Patty Hearst. She had, her parents had a lot of money. And the Symbionese army, there was a small group of people who kidnapped her. This was many years ago. And she fell in love with the kidnappers, and she actually did a lot of crimes along with the kidnappers, right? Didn't go back to her parents. And then when she was caught and she was brought to trial, the plead was that she had Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome means that she fell in love with the kidnappers and she didn't know what reality was. She didn't know whose side she should be on. So, so pretty much that is what happens to us. So we get abducted by Ravan on regular basis, right? Regular basis. We get abducted by Ravan in an hour several times. And so we are in the cottage of sorrow. So first thing we don't understand is that it is the cottage of sorrow, right? That whatever I am thinking in the vices actually is giving me a lot of sorrow. That's one thing we don't understand. Two, we fall in love with Ravan, or we are taking a lot of support from Ravan. And three, we are in love and we don't want to fall out of love. And four is we do a lot of justifications to be where we are. We just justify being in that cottage of sorrow. And five is many times we actually willingly stay in that cage. You could say the cage of sorrow. We stay in the cage, and even though the door is open wide, even though Rama has come to take us back, right? We are not willing to come out of the cage because we are in the cage and we are not willing to come out of the cage. So how does this happen? So let's take an example of something gross, and then we can take a very simple example, but let's take a example of something very gross like anger, right? I walk into, let's say I'm living in a family and I have told my family 1,000,000 times, don't leave the lights on. Clean up after yourself in the kitchen, don't leave the lights on. So I walk into the kitchen, the lights are on, and the kitchen is messy. And so I start mental conversations now, right? How dare they? This is what I'm going to tell them. This is what I'm going to tell them off. And then I start getting angrier and angrier and angrier, right? I'm not saying all of you are going to do that. Just saying, sometimes anger could come like that. And so I get angrier and angrier and angrier. And now what has happened is I'm just having a regular day. I didn't wake up in the morning at Amrit Villa and thought, oh, I'm going to walk into the cottage of sorrow. No. Because in that moment, what has happened is Ravan has abducted me and has put me in the cottage of sorrow. So instead of coming out of the cottage of sorrow, now I'm justifying. How dare they? How many times? I told them 200 times to switch the light off and keep the kitchen clean, right? Why can't they clean up after themselves? So what am I doing? This conversation, what is going on with this conversation? So because I'm having this conversation, what I'm doing is I'm doing all the things to, first, I'm in love with Ravan because I'm justifying my anger, right? I'm justifying it's not me that's getting angry. It is them. They made me angry by not doing what I'm asking them to do. I justify my anger. Now I'm taking support. How dare they? This, that. Now I have to do it, blah, 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 right? I'm taking support. I'm actually experiencing sorrow. I am not recognizing Ravan. And Baba is here, right? Baba has already given me everything. He's given me a Murli. He's given me everything already for me to actually walk out of that cage. But now I am in this cage of sorrow and in the cage of anger, and I'm not willing to come out. In that moment, right? If I want to deepen my relationship with Baba, in that moment, I have to understand that this anger is my greatest enemy. I have to understand that I'm in a cage. I have to understand that the door is open. I have to understand that Baba is here to come to take me out of this cage. He has given me so many things to come to take me out of this cage. But many times we don't, right? So that's very gross. Anger is very gross. Now let's take laziness. Laziness is much more subtle. Laziness, very subtle body consciousness, subtle arrogance. That is very, very subtle, like subtle body consciousness, right? Let's take laziness or even very, body consciousness. Body consciousness could be, I'm female. It could be, I am a particular nationality, a particular, race, all of that, right? It's very, very subtle. So body consciousness is very deep, right? So body consciousness, what has happened with body consciousness is Ravan has abducted me, let's say 1,000 years ago already it has happened. And the body consciousness, and so I'm in the cage. I'm in the cage of body consciousness, right? I'm in the cage of, you could say I'm in the cage of this very subtle gender. Let's take, I'm female, right? I'm female or I'm male or whatever. So I'm in this cage. I'm in this cage of I'm female. I'm not a soul. I'm not Baba's child. I'm not air, whatever, right? Very subtle. It's like it's playing in the background because the cage has been around for 1,000 years. I don't even know it's playing. I don't even know I'm in the cage. Like Ravan has totally taken over my life. I don't even know I'm doing any of these things. And I'm going about my day looking out through my cage. So I'll give you an example of looking out through my cage. So let's say I'm in this body, I'm Indian female, right? So I'm in this cage now, in this cage of Indian female. And I'm sure all of you angels know how many limitations there are for Indian females, right? Centuries of baggage, centuries of all of that, right? So now Baba has come and told me, you're an air soul. I've given you an inheritance, all of those things, right? But now I'm sitting here in this cage. I'm not listening to Baba. I'm in the cage. It's a very subtle cage. I'm in the cage, and one bar is I cannot do this because I'm, Baba says, you can go work, you can do whatever you want, right? You can live on your own, you can do all of that. Then I will say, no, 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 I'm Indian female, I can't do this. No, 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 because my story is this and this and this. I don't have an education. I can't do this because of whatever, whatever. So all of these are these bars I'm putting up on the cage, and I don't even know this, right? Because one thing we have to understand about this cage, this cottage of sorrow we are in, is as long as I'm in this cottage of sorrow, I cannot deepen my relationship with Baba. Because if I want to deepen my relationship with Baba, I have to get out of the cottage of sorrow. So know thy enemy. Know thy enemy, right? Okay, I'll give you a very quick example of laziness. Laziness. So let's say Baba says, wake up, hey soul, wake up in the morning and remember me, right? Early in the morning, 4 o'clock, remember me. And I'm thinking the night before, I think, yeah, I'm going to get up, right? Actually, the evening before, I'm sitting for evening meditation. I'm thinking, my meditation is not very good right now. I'm feeling very sleepy. But tomorrow morning, my meditation will be good. Tomorrow morning, Amrit Vela will be very good, right? So that's one bar where I'm postponing my remembrance of Baba from now to tomorrow morning. That is one bar. The second bar, it's actually laziness. I'm sitting in the cottage of laziness. The second bar will be the night before. I thought I should wake up at 3:30, but it's really late for me, so I will wake up at 4. Second bar. Third bar is the next morning. the alarm goes off, and then I snooze, right? And then I start telling myself, oh, I didn't have a good night's rest. I haven't had good sleep. So I need to just sleep here, sleep now. So what am I doing? I put myself in the cottage of sorrow, and I'm not opening myself, not walking out of the cage to really deepen my relationship with Baba. And so to be able to deepen my relationship with Baba, the first step is know thy enemy. Know thy enemy is the best way to know thy enemy is you take 1 hour of your day. Nothing can be more important than this. Absolutely nothing can be more important than this. Take 1 hour of your day, take a notebook, right? Take a notebook, take a pen, and you start writing every thought you have. This was a few months ago, Baba said in the Abhyakt Murli. Every thought you have, you start writing. And when you're writing your thoughts, right, you cannot judge them and don't try to change them. First hour, you just write down because you have to know thy enemy. Know thy enemy. And the other thing that is important to know thy enemy is when the Murli is going on, where are my thoughts going? Again, write them down. Just watch how many times my mind is spinning out of control and just write, where is it going? Because then you will know your enemy. Then you will understand what your enemy is. After you write it down, then you have to know that whatever that, right, is whatever that anger, whatever that laziness, whatever that body consciousness, whatever that is, whatever limitations we put ourselves in, that is my enemy, and that is preventing me from having a deep relationship with Baba. Because unconsciously we are giving in to Ravan, because we are looking at Ravan and we don't even know we are looking at Ravan. We are thinking we are having a relationship with Baba. Okay, this is one very important thing, right? The second thing is to deepen our relationship with Baba. Again, very similar to this, is the story we are telling ourselves. You have to go beyond drama. You have to go beyond the story of this life. You have to go beyond, let's say, Shirren, right? So Shirren was born in India. Then Shirren came to the United States at 21. Then Shirren studied this, and then Shirren found Baba 30 years ago. Then Shireen started running the center, whatever. So story, right? Now Shireen is a center coordinator, and Shireen has so many responsibilities, and now Shireen has totally accepted in her head that this is her responsibilities and this is what she needs to do, right? Totally forget Baba, totally forget Baba's doing everything and it's Baba's responsibility, not mine. And so what have I done? Because I've bought into the story, right? I'm totally hook, line, and sinker. I don't know if you can translate that. Totally bought into the story. I am not able to go past the story to deepen my relationship with Baba. As long as I'm in the story, right? As long as I'm connected to the story, I cannot have a deep relationship with Baba. My remembrance of Baba, as long as I'm in the story, is just bhakti remembrance. There's nothing else. There's just bhakti remembrance. And you know how many people in the world love God? Even in your countries, how many people love God? Many people, right? In the US, the people who believe in God, love God, 80%. 80% of the population of the United States, and I'm sure in your countries it's very similar, they love God. What is the difference between them loving God and us loving God? If I'm in my story and I'm remembering Baba through my story, there's no difference really. It's just bhakti. There's nothing happening. If I have to deepen my relationship with Baba, I have to become completely no story, bodiless. Absolutely no story and bodiless. Because that is what is soul consciousness. If soul consciousness, even yesterday Baba was saying in the Murli, you want to become elevated, then become soul conscious, right? Even more than soul conscious. Soul conscious is a very big term. It's an umbrella term, right? Many things are included. I would say bodiless, ashariri, bodiless. Bodiless is more important. Completely bodiless. All right. And so to be able to deepen my relationship with Baba, I have to go beyond the story of this life. And the best way to do this, of course, is to practice bodilessness. But the second best way to do this is Swadershan Chakra, the 5 forms drill. I remember when Baba about 20 years ago gave us a homework. And the homework was you have to do it 8 times, 5 minutes. I don't know if some of you must have remembered this. 8 times, 5 minutes, right? And so what I did, so this was before cell phones, right? Before smartphones. So I got one of these. It was even a manual timer. It's a timer. I got one of these timers and I put 5 minutes and I would do that, right? 8 times, 5 minutes, the timer, and I would do it. Annoyed everyone around me because the timer would go off in the middle of meetings, this, that, right? Totally annoyed everyone, right? And so what happened? But one thing I can tell you for sure, that homework changed my life. Completely changed my life. Because, and at that point, right, like there is a saying in the US, like if someone didn't want to do their homework, like the dog ate my homework, that they would go and tell the teacher, oh, I did my homework, but the dog ate my homework, right? And so I told Baba, I can't say that now. I can't say the dog ate my homework. I have to do this homework. But I can tell you this, right? I walked into that homework. It was for a few months it was the end of the season to the beginning of the next season. I walked into that month, right? Let's say it was April and then to October, totally different person, totally different person. Because the soul connected with this births, right? With higher births, with higher self, with being a deity, being worship worthy, being an angel, all of that, right? The soul connected with that. And that, I could say, deepened my relationship with Baba more than anything else. And if you notice in the Sakar Murlis, Baba always says, remember me and spin the discus of self-realization. Remember me and spin the discus of self-realization. Yes. Okay. So the other thing that was very important at that time when I was spinning the discus was really connecting with my worship worthy form. Because it was easy to connect, go to the soul world, connect with my eternal form. It was easy, little less easy, but a little more easier was connecting with the deity form, but it was very difficult to pick worship worthy, right? I was like, what was worship worthy? What is this? What's going on? All of those things, right? Like those were the thoughts. But it was uncomfortable. So this is what I want to talk about, uncomfortable. It was very uncomfortable initially for me to really see myself as a worship worthy soul. And Brahmin, of course, was easy. Angel was a little easy, but it was kind of easy because I just would go to the subtle region and stay with Baba. So that was easier. But this whole idea of uncomfortable, this, my dear angels, is the crux of the matter, is uncomfortable. So if I want to transform, right? So I want to now transformation, deepen my relationship with Baba really means transformation, right? It means transformation. So if I want to transform, then I have to give up something old and pick up something new, right? That is what transformation is. That is what transforming a habit is, right? So let's say my phone, and I have in my phone, I'm used to I'm used to, like, let's say, scrolling YouTube on my phone constantly, right? And before you know it, in shorts, I would spend 3 hours scrolling YouTube, right? And now I need to stop. I need to stop scrolling YouTube. So there has to be a transformation, right? I have to replace it with something, because 2 hours I'm spending scrolling YouTube. So I have to spend doing something. So, but what happens is the minute I start doing something else, I feel very uncomfortable. I want to go back to scrolling YouTube because there's that uncomfortableness, right? And this is very, very, very important, because we cannot live with uncomfortableness, because we would rather live in our comfort zone than be uncomfortable. I was watching this, I was reading about this gentleman. He's the father of NLP, neuro linguistic programming, Richard Bandler. And he was saying that about cigarette smoking, that cigarette smoking is one of the most addictive things someone can do. To give up smoking is very hard. And so he was a chain smoker. He used to smoke a lot, and he was asked to give up smoking because of his health. And so when he gave up smoking, everyone expected him to fail, because many people fail, right? Because it's very addictive and many people fail. And he found out why people fail, right? What he found out is why people fail is because the urge to smoke is so great that they cannot withstand the uncomfortableness of the urge to smoke, not to smoke. They have an urge to smoke and they can't just stand not smoking, right? So how long do you think this uncomfortableness lasts for the urge to smoke? How long do you think it'll last? 1 day, 1 hour, 10 minutes? How long? You will be shocked to know how long. 30 seconds. So it's a game of 30 seconds. So now, why am I sharing this with you? Let's go back to worship worthy, right? So I don't want to sit in my worship worthy form. It's very uncomfortable. I'm not connecting with it. I'm not doing it. But how long is the uncomfortable? 30 seconds. For 30 seconds, I'm willing to give up something Baba is asking me to do every day. For 30 seconds of uncomfortableness. So all I have to do is 30 seconds. I have to 30 seconds, be in that uncomfortable, just pick a worship worthy and just stay with it and just sit through it, right? And again, 10 minutes later, again, the uncomfortableness will come, but again, just sit through it, just sit through it, just keep sitting through it. Because what happens is when I do this 5 forms drill, all of it, then I can become a Shariri, I can become bodiless, and I can get out of this story of Shireen or whatever it is, whatever our story is, whatever the story is, right? It's not important. If there is story, if you have a story, you cannot have deep relationship with Baba because it's just bhakti. Whatever we are doing, right, is just bhakti. If you want to have a deep relationship with Baba, you have to get rid of your story. You have to go beyond it. I'm not saying, right? I'm not saying, let's say, oh, I need to go get driver's license. At that point, I'm not going to go say, hey, I'm beyond my story. No, whatever is needed, I'm going to do at that point. This is while I'm in yoga, how I'm seeing myself, how I'm talking to myself, what is going on, all of that, right? That is the time when in my private time, in my private moments, what is the story? And that is the time I have to become totally bodiless. The soul has taken 84 births. And if I am in that awareness constantly, that is when I really know and remember Baba. Because Baba one time in the Sakar Murli said, the only trouble I give you, the only trouble I give you is to become soul conscious. I don't give you any other trouble. The only trouble I give you is soul consciousness. Away from the body, away from the relationships of the body, away from the story of the body. And that is when I'm able to really, really connect with Baba as he is, who he is. So Ravan, I have to understand because unconsciously we are dealing with Ravan, unconsciously, right? It's a game of a second. If I think I'm doing service, but if I'm doing it in anger, is that service? No, I'm not accumulating anything. Or let's say I'm doing service. If I'm doing it in ego, am I doing anything? No. Because I'm having a relationship with Ravan at that point, it's not accumulating anything. It's a game of a second. Right? In a game of a second, we lose everything. So now coming to my sweet beloved Baba. My sweet beloved Baba. The Olympics are going on, and I have been watching the Olympics, right? And all of us have our favorite sports, right? And so let's take a favorite sport. One of you, can you talk? Can any of you talk now? All right. Anyway, let's take a sport. Let's take a sport like basketball, right? Let's take a basketball. You all know basketball? Is there basketball in your countries? Yes. Or even football. Let's take football, right? And so football is definitely in your countries. So football, right? So what happens with football is um in I'm sure in little lanes, in little playgrounds, everyone is playing football, right? Everyone's playing football. And I don't really know the main players in football, who are the top-notch players, but let's say they are top players in football, right? And there are people who play just in your college level, in high school level, in middle school level, they're all these players, right? Is it the same game? It is the same game, right? So let's say Messi, right? Yes, I know one name, Messi. right? So I don't know where he is, what he plays. I don't know anything, but I know there is a Messi football player. So let's say there is a high school player level playing football and Messi. What is the difference between Messi playing football and this high school player playing football? It's the same game. The rules are not different. It's the same game, right? And the way they kick a ball, let's say Messi has a way of kicking a ball, which I don't know if he does, but let's say he has a way of kicking the ball, right? How many times do you think he would have practiced that? 2 million times minimum. So what makes a professional versus someone who's an amateur is practice. So all of us have the knowledge. We have everything. We have everything we ever need to know about Baba. All now is required to deepen my relationship is practice, practice, practice. And we have to take simple, basic things and practice. Simple, basic things and practice. So the simple, basic thing that I take pretty much every day and keep practicing is first, of course, I'm a bodiless soul. Second, Baba is my sweet Baba. My sweet Baba. And then I see Baba as this beautiful, altruistic, wonderful soul that who loves me. Like this is another thing. Like I always tell myself this because this actually came in a Sakar Murli not long ago, last year sometime. No one will love me the way Baba loves me. I become a soul. I remember my sweet Baba, and I remember no one will love me the way Baba loves me. No one. And then going home, going to the soul world, going to the subtle region, taking drishti from Baba, whatever, right? You decide because we all have the knowledge. I don't need to tell you that Baba gives us a murli. We all have the knowledge. You decide, but you take simple, basic practices and you keep practicing. That is what will deepen our relationship. There's no new knowledge we need to deepen. We have everything. We don't need to listen to more. Acha. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Well, thank you so much. You were really very clear about everything. And of course, probably we know these things, but we need to put them in practice because sometimes we think we are doing things as Baba wants us to do it, and then we feel some difficult situations, and that means that we didn't do it, whatever we had to do correctly. And yes, whatever you said was so good. Well, actually, you shared what Baba tells us, but you gave us more tips to put these in practice. I don't see any questions coming up, but yes, I just stay with Baba is my sweet Baba, as you said, who loves me, and no one loves me as he does. And uh, probably some Brahmins haven't felt this love from Baba, because when I talk to some Brahmins, new ones, they're telling, but I cannot feel Baba's love. And I don't know what to tell them.
They are in the cage. They have to get out of the story.
Exactly.
It works, right? Baba's knowledge works, but it works outside of the cage. You can't be in the cage and expect it to work.
Exactly. This case that you shared the story, it was really very deep, and uh, well, probably I haven't thought about it before. The story, go out of the story, and what you explained with the cage was really very powerful. Um, Let me see if there. No, I don't see any questions here. Uh, but you can share a few things about um, I mean, the relationships. What is happening with the relationship? I'm in the story, and this is why there is friction in relationships. And if the other one is also in his story or her story, then how I take myself away from all these things and I don't react even subtly, because sometimes I don't react on a gross level, but in a subtle level. And I lose my happiness and my connection with Baba. What can we
But
do about it?
what I'm doing is when I'm losing my connection with Baba, is not just I'm losing my connection with Baba, I'm connecting with Ravan. That is why I'm losing my connection with Baba, because I'm connecting with Ravan. It's either this or this. There is no connection, right? Because I'm connecting with Ravan, I'm losing my connection with Rama. You know, in terms of relationships and stuff, right? Recently, I've been having this experience, this thing that Baba said, right? The only effort I need to make is soul consciousness, Ashariri and bodiless stage. Is let's say I'm in a relationship and something is happening. I have to start tolerating, then I have to start accommodating, I have to start doing all of those things. So something happened in the center recently, and I was just thinking, okay, now I need the power of tolerance. And then I paused a minute and I said, no, why are you even in my head? If you're not in my head, then I don't need tolerance. And so the first um, power I need is withdraw to become soul conscious. I totally need the power of soul consciousness, the power of becoming bodiless, the power of really remembering Baba in this moment. And that's it. Then I don't need tolerance. I don't need accommodate. I don't need any of that stuff, because then you're not in my head. Like people take valuable real estate in our heads and they think about them. And then I think, oh, now I have to accommodate. Now I have to. If they're not even in my head, then there's nothing to accommodate, right? Because we are taking so much. So what happens is, one time I was recently talking to Moini Didi, and she was saying is, um, why do I feel bad when someone says something bad to me, right? Because I'm actually expecting praise. I'm expecting praise and they say something negative, right? Because I'm expecting praise and I get negative, then I feel bad. But if there's no expectation, they are not in my head, all I am aware is so connected with Baba, then we are done. And so then there's no question of these relationships bothering me, right? I want to take from this relationship and I'm not able to take from this relationship. I have the habit of taking from human relationships for birth after birth after birth. I have this habit of taking from human relationships. And now, oh, it's all bad. It's all bad now. It's fine. You can't expect so much from human beings. Whatever it is, take from Baba and everything will be fine.
Wonderful. Yes, I still don't see any questions. Actually, you were very clear, and I think that everyone has to think himself or herself about all these things and put them deep in the self, in the soul.
Am I willing to walk out of the cottage of sorrow? Am I willing to really give up Ravan? We all know, right? We all know what the vices are. We write down 1 hour of our thoughts and check which vice is this, which vice is this, which vice is this. Am I willing to let them go? Or am I still taking support? Am I still in love with it? If I'm still, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. If I do, then Baba says, fine, go have your relationship with Ravan.
Yes, that's exactly. That's completely right what you said. And when you shared about know your enemy, yes, we have to do that because sometimes we make the enemy friend and we don't do what, well, the result is sorrow at the end. So, yes,
You know, it's a good question, Maria, what you're saying about making enemy friend, right? Never can be friend, never. We should never forget this. It can never be our friend. There is the story in the scriptures, Indian scriptures, the story of a camel and a scorpion. So there's a gushing river, and um, there's a camel and a scorpion on this other side of the river, and they need to cross, right? So the camel is ready to cross this river. And the scorpion tells the camel, hey, camel, you are big, you can cross the gushing river, but if I try to cross the gushing river, I will drown. So can I sit on your back and cross the river with you? And so the camel says, no, you can't sit on my back, because what happens if you sit on my back, you will bite me and both of us will die, right? And the scorpion is all friendly, all nice, and says, no, 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 we are friends. How can I bite you? How can I do this? And also remember, if I bite you, I drown and you drown. And so I'm not going to do that, right? So wonderful, talks very well. The scorpion convinces the camel, now let me sit on your back and let's cross the river. And so the scorpion is sitting on the back and it's crossing the river. Now both of them are crossing the river. And in the middle of this gushing river, the scorpion bites the camel. And now the camel is paralyzed, it's drowning, the scorpion is drowning. And the camel said, why did you do this? And the scorpion said, because this is my nature. This is my nature. Nature of Ravan will not go away. When Baba says it's your greatest enemy, take Baba's word for it. It will never be our friend. Ravan can never be our friend. Appears to be our friend, but there's the nature of Ravan is very insidious, takes our complete potential away.
yes, very clear. Have you written all those things in a book? We need to get this book to remember it. Yes.
Thank you for your blessings.